All right, let's dive right into this monumental transition at the world's most valuable company. We've got massive breaking news coming straight out of Cupertino, and it's literally sending shockwaves through the tech industry, Hollywood, and global financial markets. Apple is fundamentally changing its leadership structure.
But before we get into the nitty-gritty, just consider the stakes for a second. We're looking at a staggering $4 trillion valuation. $4 trillion! When you're operating at this kind of massive scale, every single leadership decision basically shifts the tectonic plates of the global economy. So in this explainer, we're going to break it all down. First, the end of an era. Then we'll look at Tim Cook's trillion-dollar legacy, ask who John Ternus actually is, explore this new hardware-first AI future, and finally, look at what changes and what doesn't.
Okay, part 1, the end of an era and a September 2026 transition.
It's officially the end of an era, folks. After a historic 15-year run at the helm, Tim Cook is stepping down as CEO on September 1st, 2026. Now, this is a transition we've seen speculated about since late 2025 when Cook turned 65, but now it's finally set in stone. It's a beautifully calculated realignment of power at the very top. Apple's unanimous board-approved succession plan puts hardware engineering chief John Ternus right at the helm as the new CEO. Meanwhile, Cook isn't leaving. He's sliding into the role of executive chairman. Concurrently, Arthur Levinson, the non-executive chairman for the past 15 years, will shift to become the lead independent director. Moving to part 2. Tim Cook's trillion-dollar legacy and his 15 years of unprecedented growth.
Think back to August 2011. Cook takes over just weeks before Steve Jobs passes away, and the general assumption in Silicon Valley was nobody can follow Jobs. Apple's market cap was around $350 billion back then. Fast forward to today, Cook has ballooned that to a towering $4 trillion. That's roughly an 11x growth, with annual revenues more than quadrupling on his watch. He originally came in back in '98 to fix a disastrous supply chain, and he absolutely turned Apple's manufacturing into an unmatched global advantage. But it's absolutely crucial to remember he didn't just sell iPhones. Cook built a massive recurring services and entertainment business that now tops $100 billion annually. By launching platforms like Apple Music and Apple TV+, he literally transformed a hardware company into a major Hollywood heavyweight. Across his entire tenure, he smoothly executed Jobs' long-term roadmap while dropping massive hits of his own. I mean, he basically created the flourishing wearables category from scratch with the Apple Watch and AirPods. Plus, he oversaw that monumental transition to Apple Silicon, which completely revolutionized the Mac lineup's performance. But as impartial tech commentators have pointed out, his legacy is definitely a bit complex. On one hand, you have immense praise for this unprecedented financial growth. On the other hand, there are critiques. You've got the costly struggles of the Vision Pro mixed reality headset, a multi-$1,000 device that really struggled to find its footing, and the fact that under Cook, Apple arguably missed the initial wave of artificial intelligence, letting competitors steal that early spotlight. Which brings us to part 3. Who is John Ternus? From mechanical engineer to CEO. Now, you really have to look at the stark contrast in their backgrounds here, because it's super telling. Tim Cook was the ultimate master of logistics and supply chain. John Ternus, he's a mechanical engineer from the University of Pennsylvania where, fun fact, he actually competed on the varsity swim team. So Apple is pivoting its leadership from a logistics expert to a true product design visionary with deep, hands-on engineering roots. Cook himself really hammered home this engineering pedigree in the announcement. He said, and I quote, "John Ternus has the mind of an engineer, the soul of an innovator, and the heart to lead with integrity and with honor." Cook made it abundantly clear. He believes a hardware visionary is exactly who Apple needs right now. And to be clear, Ternus isn't some outside hire. Actually, he's exactly 50 years old right now, the exact same age Cook was when he became CEO. But Ternus has been at Apple for 25 years, joining the product design team way back in 2001. As the Senior VP of Hardware Engineering since 2021, he's literally been shaping the physical products you use every single day. He oversaw the iPad, the M-Series, and A-Series chips driving Apple Silicon, and even pushed AirPods to become an over-the-counter hearing health system. Plus, he's been a massive champion for reducing Apple's carbon footprint and making devices easier to repair. Moving to part 4, a hardware-first AI future, and why hardware dictates Apple's AI. So what does a hardware guy mean for AI?
Well, Apple's AI strategy is deeply unusual compared to its peers because the whole shebang runs straight through the hardware. Step 1, you have Apple silicon processing. Step 2 is the Apple Neural Engine capability built directly into those chips. And Step 3 is how those components enable private, on-device AI inference. At Apple, deciding what gets processed locally versus what gets pushed to the cloud isn't just software. It's fundamentally a hardware engineering decision. Putting Ternus, the exact guy who practically built that strategic hardware layer, in charge of the company tells us everything we need to know. It means Apple's commitment to hardware-first, privacy-focused, on-device AI is going to remain the absolute core of their ecosystem. The trajectory of their AI infrastructure is highly unlikely to pivot abruptly, simply because the person setting the vision is the engineer who designed the hardware it all relies on.
Finally, Section 5. What changes, what doesn't? The Apple ecosystem post-September 1st.
Let's look at the actual strategic shift for you as a consumer, a developer, or an investor. On the changes side, the board is getting way more technical, with Ternus joining, shifting heavily toward engineering representation. The whole strategic direction is locking into a hardware-first mindset. Now, on the doesn't change side, Craig Federighi is still running software. App Store economics and developer structures remain deeply entrenched. Apple's institutional inertia on software platforms is massive, so developers really shouldn't expect any overnight changes to app review policies. And we can't forget, Apple isn't losing Tim Cook's masterclass in political diplomacy. As executive chairman, he's going to stay actively involved to manage those intense global antitrust and regulatory pressures. Whether we're talking about the EU's Digital Markets Act or the DOJ antitrust proceedings in the US, Cook will be the guy continuing to engage policymakers. That provides some absolutely crucial continuity for their legal battles. As we watch this historic passing of the torch, from a supply chain master who built a $4 trillion empire to a mechanical engineer totally obsessed with silicon and product design, it leaves us with one massive lingering question. Will a hardware visionary be able to build the ultimate integrated AI ecosystem? We'll start to see the real answer on September 1st. Thanks for tuning in to this explainer. I really hope this breakdown helps you see the whole picture of what's happening behind the scenes at Cupertino. Keep an eye on those devices in your pocket, because they're about to enter a whole new era.